Hello, my name is BStehlik, and for my General Chemistry 1 Capstone, I am doing How Does Changing the Use of Fertilizer Protect Our Drinking Water? I'll be covering today what is fertilizer, how is it used, the effects of fertilizer runoff on surrounding water, the effects of fertilizer runoff on drinking water, and possible ways to fix this fertilizer problem. So first off, what is fertilizer? Fertilizer is a natural or artificial substance containing the chemical elements that improve growth and productiveness of plants. Fertilizers enhance the natural fertility of the soil or replace chemical elements taken by the soil by previous crops. So approximately half of the food produced now in the world is supported by the use of N fertilizer. What do we mean by N fertilizer? Nitrogenous fertilizer. Nitrogen is a very important component in the growth of plants. And as you can see here, it's basically used everywhere in the plant. It's a limiting reactant, so throwing a lot of nitrogen into the soil will make the plant grow really, really fast and make a lot of produce. As you can see here, as globally, we consume a lot of nitrogen. Fertilizer. Here, 100 million tons a year. It's a huge amount of fertilizer and comes with a lot of dire consequences. When we're talking about nitrogenous fertilizers, we have to talk about eutrophication. The eutrophication process is when nitrogen and the fertilizers running off and finding themselves in our waterways and bodies of water surrounding farmland. Nitrogen, doing what nitrogen does best and promotes growth, will make really thick blooms of algae here, as you can see, blocking off sunlight to the bottom of the bodies of water. This makes it so the plants that you have at the bottom of these bodies of water just die because no sunlight, and they start to rot. This is a problem because the rotting of these plants deoxygenates the water, takes all the oxygen away. On top of that, we have the algae just naturally die, also float to the bottom and deoxygenate this water. You're creating massive dead zones where you have no oxygen in the water and it is not suitable for any kind of life. Kills all fish and throws off the balance of the ecosystem. Nitrate from agriculture is now the most common chemical contaminant in the world's groundwater aquifers. This is worsened by the fact that there's this thing called leaching, where you have the nitrate fertilizer seep into the ground and then from the ground seep into the waterways. This makes a very slowed down and sustained seepage of fertilizer. Even if we would stop making fertilizer today, the seepage would go on for decades, 3 decades even, with the modeling results. On top of that, streams and other waterways are losing their ability to filter excess nitrates from fertilizers and sewage. This means that more we put nitrates and fertilizers in, the worse the stream is going to be able to handle these, and the entire process of denitrification falls apart. 65% of the estuaries and coastal waters in the contiguous US have been studied by researchers, are moderately to severely degraded by excessive nutrient inputs. This is not a small problem. This is not a localized problem, but across the entire world. Moving on, we have to talk about drinking water because it also gets affected. The Des Moines Waterworks had to invest millions of dollars to upgrade their water treatment. And the reason why it's so hard and so expensive is that denitrification is the only process that removes nitrogen from water that we know of. Denitrification is basically the natural bacteria eating and getting rid of the nitrogen in the water. And it takes a lot of time and it needs to be really undisturbed. Naturally, bacteria in the streams average elimination of 16% of the nitrogen. And in the best, most undisturbed streams, we see like as much as 43%. 43%, that's still not great, as you can imagine, especially with the fact that drinking excessive nitrate causes serious health problems such as blue baby syndrome. It's a very bad syndrome and is potentially lethal. So we're wasting a lot of money and time trying to get rid of nitrogen in the waterways. So how can we fix all of these problems? One idea is that about 1/4 of produced food is lost along the food supply chain, accounting for 24% of the freshwater resources, 23% of global cropland area, and 23% of global fertilizer use. Only if we could make the supply chain more efficient and limit food waste, we could see potentially 1/4 of global fertilizer gone and used efficiently. Also, what we have to do is just limit the amount of nitrogen fertilizer used. As we were talking about with the leaching, it's going to take a really long time for the nitrogen to get out of our drinking water and bodies of water that we need. So limiting the amount of nitrogen immediately is going to be very needed. Another idea is to have smarter irrigation and make sure farmers aren't having excess runoff of water. And another idea is the use of buffer strips. Buffer strips are a well-established technology. They're vegetated filter strips at the margins of farms and along rivers and are effective in decreasing concentration of pollutants entering waterways. Here's my list of sources. Thank you so much.